Chapter 12, Contiguity of Bodies. Contiguity of bodies. Morning exercises lasted only so long. Contextual clues suggested a typical slow of evening exercises after a Spartan lunch, but Clown Muffle's first day apparently fell on special circumstances. Namely, the 3 other platoons embarking on some journey. So after Bolingbroke led them in prayer to God and Empress, and they consumed simple bread and water under the painted gaze of the latter, they arranged in 2 lines by rank and marched out of their complex into a series of identical vehicles and drove across Chicago to the port area with the yacht and buildings. There they met everyone else in the Empire. Many people made speeches. One she recognized, not by appearance, but by voice. "Oh yeah," she began. Instead of a ditzy blonde with long curls, she was tall, imbued with a collegiate chic in the sharpness of her cheekbones and the smartness of her short, sleek hairdo. Much better look, much more unexpected when paired with her voice. Anyone expected a young blonde girl to sound spacey, but this centurion cook on a purely visual level belonged more in law school than the Valley. Actually, Clown Muffle could appreciate the appearances of all centurions except the superbly bland Aurora, who made 0 impression whatsoever. Cicero's extreme brusqueness contrasted Cook's elegance neatly, but Joliet shone as the true gem, a kind of experiment in the aesthetics of tactical ugliness, and one look swelled a sense of pride to be her subordinate. Her grotesque paleness, the oscillation of age between her myriad components, the sense that she somehow assembled herself rather than naturally existed, wow! When the light crept between the permanent dusk of wintry Chicago, when the barest gleam of twilight effervescence hit her hair, Clown Muffle's heart palpitated. If only she wore something other than the same white suit. But Joliet was the perfect model, Clown Muffle's head whirred with costumes to drape on her. It whirred the entire ceremony. The speeches ended, fanfare trumpeted, and the platoons of Cook, Cicero, and Aurora marched down the walkway, entered vehicles positioned on a roundabout, and exited. Only Joliet's platoon and some staff members like Lila remained. The staff members darted back to their respective buildings and Joliet darted somewhere too. Clown Muffle missed where she went because she and Joliet were seemingly the 2 shortest people in the entire city and a flurry of shoulders blocked the view. "And you sisters of the Empire," Bolingbroke's harsh and bland voice cut in, "must also serve an essential function. With the 3 other platoons absent, the burden of energy collection in the city falls upon your shoulders. All of you shall be reassigned to the more wraith-dense areas of the inner city. Hammond and McKenna, you'll patrol North Lawndale. Orland and Harvey, you'll patrol." And so forth. But Joliet. Clown Muffle wanted to see her again. She had all the elements of the Empress's portrait that enthralled her but improved upon them in every way, like how a little bend improved the peak of a witch's hat, the imperfections that demonstrated a true individuality yet within the forms and mechanisms of beauty that titillated on a purely psychological level, line, color, composition. It became difficult to stand in the same rigid posture mandated by her blathering lieutenant. She wanted to pace and plan, to imagine and design. The centurions, unlike all others in Chicago, had unique costumes. What was Joliet's? Gold still? Would gold blot out her natural luster or complement it, like a faded and decayed monument? An ivy-strewn marble husk flecked with a fishnet of gilded leaf? Bolingbroke's foot clopped hard on the pavement. She had paced the entire time on the slightest stretch, had refused to step on even the barest portion of snow. And finally, she held her arms behind her back to compose a particularly handmaiden-esque figure. "Our newest recruits. It would be wasteful to fling them unprepared into such a dangerous situation as the Chicago inner city. So,
I shall lead a special 4-man wraith hunting unit until I have better assessed the combat capacity of these recent additions to our platoon. That means, Flossmoor, Palos, Midlothian. You three shall accompany me to Lower West Side.
As everyone else did whenever their name was mentioned, 2 girls saluted and said yes milady. One of those 2 girls was the one with the little bend in her witch hat. She had a new name and no witch hat, and Clown Muffle was too flustered to remember her old one. Hemet. Hemet.
Flossmoor. You will salute your superior when called upon.
Clown Muffle did that with her mind turned toward Joliet. Night fell not long after. The platoon divided into pairs, apparently along the lines Bolingbroke specified in her endless monologue, which left the aforementioned special 4-man wraith hunting unit of Clown Muffle, Bolingbroke, Hemet, and some 4th girl who made no impression. Bolingbroke drove them, everyone silent, to a rancid region of the city, a familiar kind of place, more vertical than San Bernardino but possessed of the same porous vitality as its denizens sought through any means available to assert control over their environment: vandalism, graffiti, aimless loitering, the same faces, the same moonwalkers.
Flossmoor, Palos. Do either of you speak Spanish?
Bolingbroke pulled to the side of the street and parked.
Yes,
Clown Muffle and Hemet intoned in unison.
Good. I chose a Spanish-speaking neighborhood under that assumption.
So they, 4 young women in immaculate white suits, stepped into the quiet noise of inner-city Chicago. Puffs of their own breath enveloped them as they ascended a walkway toward a 7-story structure composed of brown concrete and brown glass, 2 wings divided by a thinner center and a single pair of cracked doors in the center of their obtuse vertex. Several identical structures flanked it in a grid pattern. Windows, windows, windows top to bottom.
The city's demolished most of these housing developments the last few years,
said Bolingbroke in the same authoritative tone she always used, although any kind of factual information from her mouth Clown Muffle had license to doubt.
But those that remain are the best sources of dense wraith clusters. The first consideration when hunting wraiths is safety. Each of you has potential to become valuable contributors to our empire, and your lives are important, so don't waste them. The second consideration, however, is efficiency. Traveling in this city takes time. The more time wasted traveling, the less time to hunt. Therefore, it is imperative to assault locations where misery tends to congregate.
Yes, yes, who didn't know that?
But milady,
said the 4th, nondescript girl,
aren't these places also more dangerous? Correct. Which is why we pair our soldiers. The added safety of working together more than compensates the loss in efficiency.
In front of the housing complex lurked about 9 of the kind of people who tended to employ her in San Bernardino. They engaged in a conversation in Spanish about, of all things, how long until Radio Shack closed down. This conversation ended abruptly when the first of them spotted the 4 girls encroaching. Immediately all 9 looked in the same direction. They did not speak, they only looked with faces placid and grey.
These bitches again, said one.
Ain't the usual ones,
said another. One looked at Clown Muffle and Hemet and said in Spanish,
"The fuck you doing with these bozos?"
"Getting paid,"
Clown Muffle replied in Spanish.
"You whores."
"Nah."
They passed between the ranks of the 9.
"We're exterminators."
The Mexicans laughed. Some dashed cigarettes against concrete walls.
"You'll find a lot of rats in there, girl."
Inside the brownness decreased, replaced by a stale yellow and a constant hum of bare-bones electricity. Traces of miasma became immediately apparent, flickers of static along the surfaces in a grey murk that filtered from under the doors. Hemet and the nondescript fourth girl seemed oblivious. At least Bolingbroke's eyes flitted in the right directions.
We'll cover each floor in pairs, so everyone will stay in telepathy range in case there's trouble,
Bolingbroke said. Clown Muffle hoped for Hemet as her partner, to spare having to learn the fourth girl's name. She already had so many names pumped into her she had forgotten most of them. First there was the girl who wrote down all her information. Oh wait, that was Lila. Then the handmaiden? And Bolingbroke the other handmaiden, Joliet of course, those other centurions, she forgot someone somewhere.
Paulus and I,
Bolingbroke continued,
will handle the odd-numbered floors.
Good. She ended up with Hemet after all.
Flossmoor and Midlothian will handle the even-numbered floors.
Wait. Which was Hemet again?
That way each pair will have someone who can communicate with the locals.
Hemet? Paulus? Midlothian? Who even was who anymore? She forgot which name was supposed to be hers.
Flossmoor, one final thing.
Bolingbroke looked at Clown Muffle, so Clown Muffle remembered she was supposed to be Flossmoor.
The physician informed me about your condition. As is standard protocol for Puella Magi with little magical combat ability, we've assigned you a weapon.
She retrieved a small case from the inside pocket of her coat. When opened, it contained an even smaller pistol and several rounds of ammunition.
Normally, we provide training for accuracy and I can use any weapon.
Clown Muffle removed the gun from the case, loaded it, and aimed down the sights at a spray-painted face with XS for eyes.
I hope so. Word is you're an idiot savant at combat. Prove the rumors right and keep your partner alive, but don't fire until you're in the miasma. Now night is wasting, move.
Good. For at least some blissful moment, Clown Muffle had no further contact with Bolingbroke's abominable lack of anything. Drawback, she had a new friend with nothing fun about her who tagged along at Clown Muffle's heels squeaking and stumbling up the steps to the second floor. Midlothian. Clown Muffle at least credited the name for sounding less like a generic geographic location and more like a fantasy realm. The name at least stuck in memory more than most she encountered, but she figured she ought to forget it anyway because of its total mismatch with its person. Midlothian herself exhibited every telltale, obvious sign of a fresh magical girl. No. It wasn't worth cataloging information about her. That dead space could go to anything more important, like potential costume ideas for Joliet. Person after person, identity after identity, it wore her down, it tired her out. How many more introductions could she sustain? 6 years in San Bernardino, secondary girls came and went on a monthly basis, names regurgitated and disintegrated, faces arrived and vanished forever, but at least the same handful of names repeated endlessly and at least she had time between each one to acclimate it. This way of life was unforgivable. She wanted out. She wanted no more names. How long until they forced her to learn the names of all 20 girls in her platoon? No. They had ugly names too. They had the same costume. What purpose did their last vestiges of individuality serve? Eliminate them all. Refer to them as a singular hive mind or tear down the whole.
So,
said Midlothian.
You're a Flossmoor. Clown Muffle. Oh.
They had entered the miasma. Midlothian maybe did not notice, because the second-story corridor had a natural darkness, several dead light bulbs. Most of the smoke seeped from the apartments, wraiths slowly drained the sufferers as they slept. That was the main problem with these kinds of packed apartment complexes, the wraiths had no reason to come out and play with you. So Clown Muffle tilted her ear to a door, listened to what was inside, drew back a few steps, and kicked the door in. Midlothian shrieked and ducked as Clown Muffle screamed,
"Police motherfuckers!" everyone on the ground,
and started firing. The miasma deadened senses, entire magical fights could ensue with humans oblivious, but they responded still to more terrestrial stimuli. Bullets spiraled over countertops and perforated a wraith in the kitchen before she flipped against the wall and kicked herself into a roll through the adjacent hallway. 5 more shots eliminated a wraith in the bedroom, which dissolved atop a pair of adults face flat on the floor. She checked the bathroom. Empty. Those 2 only? She guessed others lurked in other apartments. She reloaded her gun.
"Girl,"
she said.
"This'll take forever if I do each apartment one by one. Take the ones on the left and I'll do the right."
The girl peered over the kitchen counter at the cubes there.
"The left. The left apartments."
As she scooped the cubes in bedroom into the special pouch Bolingbroke provided to store them, she considered.
"Left, assuming you're coming from the stairs. All of them. Have to be sure."
In the kitchen knife. She liked that. Good for when her ammo ran out. She tucked it under an arm, exited the apartment, and considered the corridor, which stretched all the way to the end of the wing with a distant, almost unreadable exit sign. She kicked down the next apartment, shouted the same police remark, and repeated the same actions nearly muscle by muscle. When she returned to the hallway, the other girl stood exactly where she had before. Clown Muffle pointed.
"Those are the left ones." Yeah.
Third door kicked down, third police motherfuckers shouted, third group of wraiths dispatched, although at least this apartment had 3 instead of a pair. The girl remained standing in the same spot.
"Start with the first one." "Yeah. Got it."
The girl nodded a single sharp nod.
"Kick the door down." "Yeah. Kick it down."
She turned just enough to consider the nearest door. She had transformed, she had the same uniform as everyone else, but she clutched a glass jar half the size of herself. Bottled smoke or darkness swirled inside.
"Put that away. It's my weapon. Limits your mobility."
She put the jar down and patted the cork cap. Clown Muffle took the kitchen knife out and juggled it and the handgun while she waited for the girl to comport herself, face the door, and look at her foot. She wobbled her shoe against the corridor carpet. She lifted it knee-height and lowered. She looked back at Clown Muffle.
Kick it." Look, it's scary. Miasma puts humans under a trance. They won't complain. No. I mean...
Not words. Clown Muffle caught her knife and balanced the gun on the tip. Bunk. Like the new girls in San Bernardino. Cube whined, mentor them, help them, but who could? Given the simplest instructions they invariably bungled. Just do it. Feel the natural flow. Such was magic. A lifeblood of selfhood indescribable by science, like how a personality could not boil down to electrons and quarks. Magic made all people. As the girl stepped in another ginger anti-attempt to kick the door, Clown Muffle seized her shoulders and pulled her back. She yelped, Clown Muffle tugged off the girl's helmet and cast it aside, then the shoulder pads, and she started on the fasteners of the breastplate before the girl said,
"What are you doing? It's useless."
The breastplate came off. As the girl stepped in another ginger anti-attempt to kick the door, Clown Muffle seized her shoulders and pulled her back. She yelped. Clown Muffle tugged off the girl's helmet and cast it aside, then the shoulder pads, and she started on the fasteners of the breastplate before the girl said,
"What are you doing? It's useless."
The breastplate came off in two halves. The yellow shirt beneath little improved the overall aesthetic.
"Wait here."
She dipped into the nearest cleared apartment and returned with a purple bedsheet, tulips from a vase, and several articles of Catholic paraphernalia. She stuck the flowers in the hair, strung the crucifixes from neck and shoulders, and slashed the sheet to segments which she then draped strategically around the girl to create a caped costume halfway between knight and gypsy, or a Turkish mercenary, with a shawl draped over her mouth and another around her forehead so only her pretty eyes remained exposed, and a costume like this required midriff, so she cut off a clean strip of cloth of equidistant length above and below the navel.
"What are you doing?"
The girl grabbed at the piece of cloth near her mouth.
"This is someone's sheet, gross."
She clutched her waist.
"Eek." "Yes. Yes. 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 Yes."
The heartbeat transmuted through Clown Muffle's fingertips, the flow of the world connected on her one end and her other, energies streamlined, and blockages faded, the rhythm of her body matched the rhythm of her clothing, two forces on either sides of the same time pressed their foreheads together and blinked lidless eyes, Clown Muffle and Handmaiden, fabrics interwoven and intermingled, white and black or gold, a color adaptive to its environment and a color either way adverse to it. She clutched the knife between her teeth and hung the gun from her thumb and patted sides and shoulders, upper and lower arms, molded the girl, bosom and hips, little extent of either, please. Thighs, knees, ankles, feet, up down the length, qui. She staggered back and wiped her brow. A dancer she had created, a harem assassin, an oriental mystery, yet with the inherent religious contradiction of the crosses, ah.
The pulse restores. You've done it. This suits you far more.
She prodded the crosses.
I'm Jewish. When you speak, finish strong. Don't let yourself fade away. You must exist alongside the world, not dissolve within it, or the opposite. Now kick the door. Okay, I'll do it.
She swung her foot, it bounced back, she clutched it and winced and tripped over her jar and would have fallen if Clown Muffle didn't catch her.
Not like that. I kicked it, what did you expect? Oh, your nose.
Clown Muffle touched under her nose. Blood. The moment she touched it a fast flood rushed down over her lip and chin. She considered her red fingertips a dazed instant, then snorted hard inward and spat the mouthful of blood onto the wall behind her.
I'm fine. Now watch. I'll show you how to kick.
Step. Swing. Connection. The door snapped open and Clown Muffle's leg snapped at the shin. A simple easy crack. No blood, only an unexpected bend where no bend should be, and a limp useless foot she regarded in silence during the recoil until her body swung 90 degrees into the floor. The girl's shriek came from 2 glass walls away. The sound of Clown Muffle's body striking the ground came from 2 glass walls away. All the glass in her brain cracked. Her leg lay bent before her. What papier-mâché bone? She had used no magic. Of course, magic made all people. To exist meant to expend it. Any assertion of self. She could think no more because the pain came harsh, undulled, unabated. Her back cleaved to the floor and she cried out and blood spurted from her breath. Her vision bleared. Another scream broke through the glass. In the open doorway loomed a wraith and the other girl had fallen onto her butt and kicked herself away from it. It played out like watercolor.
Flossmoor, please, please get up, help, help me.
The girl grabbed her jar and wrapped herself around it as 6, 7, 8, 20 arms extended from the wraith's robe-wrapped torso and reached for them both. Clown Muffle aimed her gun except she wasn't holding her gun. It had fallen near the door and she stared at it a moment baffled to have lost perception of anything for as long as she had. The knife was closer and she seized it and severed several hands in one swipe. But the other girl only pulled the cork from her jar, plop, while long sharp fingers gored her torso.
NFF,
the girl cried, which was adorable and courageous because most girls failed to maintain their cute aesthetics under duress. But she ruined it by shrieking telepathically, "Lieutenant! Help! Pa!" Clown Muffle had managed to forget that block of wood. Evoking her did no favors. The butch voice sheared her mind's ear, "Hang on. We're on our way." Meanwhile the smoke or mist inside the girl's jar billowed into a cotton candy-sized puff of angry cloud, angry because it had a frowny face like a cartoon, that rose toward the ceiling. The girl hugged the empty jar while the claws shredded the costume Clown Muffle worked so hard on. Blood splattered the carpet and disappointment compounded when cute cries of pain became unrestrained screams. Nonetheless, no magical girl would allow another's misery. The pain in her mind entered a box she locked and swallowed the key as her remaining foot twisted and her body lifted off the floor in a 180-degree arc through the wraith's face with the knife point and into a handstand while one eye went red with blood bubbling from her nose and she flipped upon a post at the foot of the bed and balanced one-footed atop it as from the bathroom rushed a second wraith. She crouched onto her knee above the splayed form of a naked bedridden man with a hideous belly and when the wraith closed one swipe decapitated it.
"Iaaaak!"
the girl kept screaming. Why? Oh, because a third wraith, in the kitchen Clown Muffle leapt past, and which her bloodied eye concealed, had gone for her. Clown Muffle braced to lunge but before her foot gained the leverage it needed against the rounded ball that topped the post a flash blotted the room in instantaneous white. The girl's frowny face cloud, which had floated to the top jamb of the door, blurted a quick blip of lightning that electrified the wraith to cubes. The girl screamed at her own power and sagged against her jar panting as the cloud drifted back inside it. A few moments later footsteps pounded up the stairwell.
"Where is the threat?"
barked the lieutenant.
"Ahhh,"
said the girl.
"Where is Flossmoor?"
Clown Muffle hopped into the doorway and poked out her head. She held up her broken leg as though in mid-step and let the broken part dangle. The lieutenant, helmet behind, posed at the end of the corridor, weapons drawn.
"Finished."
Clown Muffle flourished a magnificent salute. The lieutenant narrowed her eyes. She held some sort of gun. Not like a gun, but gun-like.
"First, do not pull me away from my own work unless your situation is truly perilous. We had to retreat from a wraith encounter of our own to assist you. Second."
She blitzed down the hall, wrenched the fourth girl up by the neck, and struck her hard in the face.
"What manner of profanity have you enacted upon your uniform, Midlothian? I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, more than enough violations in standard dress code."
Another strike.
Your uniform is the extension of your purity as a PMMM Magi. It symbolizes rectitude, devotion, and dedication. You stupid hussy.
Each word accompanied by a slap.
What kind of promiscuous deviant would parade in sullied sheets? What kind of...
The point of Clown Muffle's knife aimed with clear enough intent to interrupt.
Ho! Turning your blade against your superior.
The lieutenant grinned.
Seems disobedience begets disobedience, isn't that true? Under normal circumstances an affront like this is grounds for death, but I'll grant leeway given your standing as a recruit. That's not to say I won't pound you to oblivion.
Her hand tightened on her not-quite gun. Clown Muffle had to brace her one leg to prepare to move. She could not affect the fluidity that would normally allow her to spring forward before her opponent's weapon had a chance to fire. The doorway provided cover. She hated to make her first move on the defensive but...
Wait.
Hemet. The lieutenant's left eye shifted as though she looked over her shoulder, but the way her face was angled it would be impossible to see anything behind her.
Plan on breaking a rule too, Palos? No milady, I just thought, before you became busy,
said Hemet. Clown Muffle remembered the dumb but passionate girl she faced in the Orange Grove and wondered where her soul went.
I'm picking up a PMMM Magi, several miles south of here. Madison and Dalton entering range. My range covers a major portion of the city. Since we started, I've been able to read most of the others in our platoon. This one's different, she's moved our way consistently the past minute.
No. Hemet, don't talk like that. Use better words. Use your own words. The lieutenant shifted her eyes to focus solely on Clown Muffle.
It's possible someone outside your range suffered phone malfunction and is traveling to contact me directly.
Normally the phone not working excuse flew only ground ward, but in the Empire they gave everyone ancient flip-tops with no internet. Someone stole Clown Muffle's old phone.
That's possible, milady,
said the girl who was not like Hemet, but Hemet-like.
But, I also have to mention. Did you read the file Junior Administrator Hedgewish typed about me?
What was the face on the lieutenant? Annoyance, nervousness? All her negative emotions empowered Clown Muffle. She swayed on her one leg in a growing rhythm. The lieutenant said,
I did peruse it, although I spent far more time on Flossmoor's file.
Sway.
Milady, I must inform you that prior to being enlisted, a Terminatrix was pursuing me. I think it's highly possible the signature I'm picking up belongs to her.
Sway. Clown Muffle swallowed a mouthful of blood. The jar girl ceased sobbing although she still hugged her jar. The lieutenant clicked her teeth in a pattern attuned to the motions of Clown Muffle's body.
2 more magical signatures just appeared to the south as well,
said Hemet.
They're also headed our way. Close together. Close together. That's a pair of ours for sure.
Although the lieutenant lacked certainty.
They saw the first PMMM Magi and pursued.
Her eyes closed. Taking out her throat was a triviality at this point. But sway.
Okay. As much as I'd love to kick the stuffing out of you. Flossmoor, Midlothian, our first responsibility is defense of the Empire. Any foreign PMMM Magi is an invader and must be eliminated, and we must allow no attempt against one of our own. Battle positions, ladies. I'll call for reinforcements.
She whipped out her flip-top, it looked enchanted, and dialed a number. As she pressed it to her ear and the empty, soulless ringtone fritzed tinny in the deathly silence. Her eyes struck Hemet and she added,
"Gimme a reading on her distance." 5 miles. At 3 she can attack. She creates maybe 30 projections of magical, Puella Magi.
"Weak ones," said Clown Muffle.
What's terminate?
Or, said the fourth girl.
"Madison,"
said the lieutenant.
"Foreign threat inbound to my position. Call everyone else in range. I'm at Lower West Side Hunting Area 2B.
A designation that caused Clown Muffle to snicker, decidedly less ladylike than she'd have liked.
4 miles.
Hemet clustered closer to the lieutenant. The lieutenant ended her call.
"Is it possible she already created 2 projections and those are the other signatures you're reading?"
Clown Muffle leaned against the jam and laughed.
"Her projections leave no signature, they don't exist outside of the main signatures."
Clown Muffle managed to wheeze.
"Could anyone else be after you?" "Nobody, I can't think of anyone." "What is it? I don't get it. What's happening?"
said the fourth girl.
"It has to be 2 of our own,"
said the lieutenant.
Signatures. 3 miles, she's here, she's."
30 magical girls manifested in the corridor. The same instant Clown Muffle slashed the closest's throat and dipped under the arc of blood and 4 falling swords. One sliced open her pouch of cubes and they sprinkled across the ground as Clown Muffle landed on her back, which undulated to propel her swirlwise through 2 ankles, cleaved clean and past the handgun. She dropped prior into an upward bound, gun blazing as 10 other guns discharged at once, and the hallway became epileptic. The scream of the fourth girl crawled up the walls and onto the ceiling, to which Clown Muffle stuck gecko-like and like a gecko as the lieutenant unloaded a full clip of automatic nails long as railroad spikes that impaled plaster and flesh alike. Breath. And the girls, slashed or dismembered or shot or else dispossessed of excess blood, vanished at once while still more remained. Clown Muffle's gecko-like body shifted sideways as a spear rammed close enough to cut the side of her suit, and 5 needles plunged into the dangling flesh of her broken leg, before the imagined adhesive on her fingertips and shoe sole wore away and she pinballed off the left wall and back to the floor in a roll that rose into the disembowelment of a girl before she swayed rightward and her back pressed against the back of the still-firing lieutenant. FFFHH, and a voice cut in.
"Let go."
Hemet, a girl on each arm, dragged halfway down the corridor, feet dredging trenches through the carpet. That sole glimpse closed as a magical girl stepped in front of Hemet and opened a steel umbrella that blocked the whole hallway. It became clear the intention of their formation had nothing to do with defeating Clown Muffle but extracting Hemet. 15 nails from the lieutenant's gun punctured the umbrella and immediately orange-red dust spread across the metal, which hissed away like lit paper until only the umbrella's skeleton remained, at which point Clown Muffle aimed over the lieutenant's shoulder and over the umbrella girl's shoulder at one of the 2 dragging Hemet and fired only for the umbrella girl to shift sidewise and absorb the shots with her body, which spasmed against the wall with 5 bloody shudders and a splat. The lieutenant whirled around Clown Muffle to fend off the foes from behind, while Clown Muffle braced her 1 foot and bounded toward them. Her next shots took out the girl on Hemet's left before the clip ran out. Those she shot vanished in puffs, but it left 1 girl to heave Hemet, who, 1 arm freed, flung lousy punches mostly ignored. Clown Muffle still had the knife and still could cut, and no ruined leg hurt her motion in the long weightless arc of her leap. So a new magical girl appeared and blocked her swipe, clang, with a candy cane striped rod topped by a star. The girl's black visor spanned her face.
"Hi,"
said Clown Muffle.
"She's ours,"
said Denver.
Sounds nothing like you,
as the knife drew back and sliced low and bounced off the star tip's block. They tangled, disentangled, and Clown Muffle's momentum bounced her against the bloodied wall. The needles in her leg now stung like fuck, and every jostle amplified her agony as sweat drooled down her forehead and her half-liquid skin slopped against her pants leg. Duck. The blade of the star passed over her scalp. Roll. Her lack of leg placed the brunt of motion on her arms and body. Breath. Denver only attacked physically. She did not form comets, she did not launch stars. Confines of a marginal space, but none of the others used magic beyond what constituted their weapon of choice, which led Clown Muffle to suspect. Clang. Breath. The fundamental weakness of those who gather together, a whole less than the sum of parts, even if perhaps greater than any individual, something lost in the merger, and in any case a shadow, no matter of what once great girl, made no difference.
"Gia,"
said Hemet, wedged in the doorway to the stairwell, in constant struggle with the azure-furred girl who dragged her. "And this glamourlessness." The swoosh of the knife blade brokered the clang of the rod before the second hand dropped with the butt of the handgun and smashed Denver's visor and Clown Muffle's pinky to smithereens. The inviolable sheen of pure obsidian eyegard shattered easier than expected, but Denver recoiled less than expected. Either way she did recoil, and Clown Muffle drew back her arm and launched the knife at Hemet's captor's skull. A tomahawk rose just fast enough to deflect it, and as the infinitely revolving gleam of stainless steel shot sparkle fire beams in disco ball directions, the likewise hurtling Clown Muffle caught it and came down bad leg forward. Her insensible bone rammed the tomahawk girl's cranial plate, and her /Hemet/ Clown Muffle jerked through the doorway and into the zigzag conch shell of stairs. As one collective corporeality they collided against the guardrail and flipped over into the void amid the flights. Clown Muffle caught the guardrail with one hand and drove the knife through Hemet's foot to catch her. The girl with the tomahawk and the azure furs fell further but jammed herself crab-like between the first-floor stairs. Hey! The arc of Hemet's descent, stopped by the impalement of her foot, swung her head first into a concrete slab. Clown Muffle's gun bounced against her hip and passed the azure-furred girl into darkness. Denver appeared in the stairwell doorway with the wand raised overhead. Then 15 long nails plunged through her back and out her front. Her blood rained down the aperture and the platinum armor across her chest rusted into a swirl of dust. She staggered aside and the lieutenant absorbed her position.
"Take my hand,"
hand proffered, she shouted. The sparkle of Denver's star whipped forward and cleaved the lieutenant's face. Drawing back, her blood ribboned in the shape of a question mark to punctuate her half-confused howl. Denver then vanished, much as the others wounded had, but the 10 or so projections who remained crammed through the doorway. The foremost seized the barrel of the lieutenant's gun and forced it downward, while the next came with a slashing claw. But before the claw connected, a force barreled between all three, and their Renaissance tableau of mythic strife reimagined. The fourth, nondescript girl, still fluttering in her purple vestments and the jar clamped in her arms, both shield and battering ram, screaming her head off, breath. She staggered into the guardrail hard enough to shake it, whipped a frantic head left-right, and charged up the stairs higher into the building. Her screams echoed all the way up, while the disheveled work of art in the stairwell door wobbled back into the geometric perfection of 3 women rising into a triangle and scattered faces dotting the background between. Purple flared below. Hemet whipped her wand at the azure fur girl climbing up to her. The skin on the strained joints of Clown Muffle's arms started to split. And 2 voices entered their heads collectively. "Hey! How's it? Having fun in there? Sounds messy." "Yeah."
"Reinforcements,"
the lieutenant breathed. The stillness of the interruption gave her the moment to break away, back against the guardrail, and aim her gun at the attackers.
The full might of Chicago's finest soldiers are coming. We'll outnumber and outpower you.
It's the two,
Hemet batted at the azure fur girl.
The two I said earlier. The two from before.
These words came at Clown Muffle like a new language, she could not cohere the meaning.
Dalton. Madison. Someone.
Said the lieutenant. A door opened. Below. In the darkness. A triangle of light split between the guardrails and over the body of the azure fur girl, who squinted. And a second later, the light went dark, a shadow crested it, and vast metal clanked, shifted together as a figure of immense bulk pushed through the portal. All dark save a jeweled crown on her head, but then at her side, like a lightsaber from that movie, a neon mace manifested. The entire stairwell lit up with it, the colors rubbed everything, and the full shape and form of the newcomer became apparent. Ah! Ah! Fortune, fortune, fortune! Clown Muffle of course recognized her instantly. Who wouldn't? Selfie board regular, post-team picture extraordinaire, half of the most thrilling duo in the magical world, fashion gossip and pretty colors enthusiast, recipient of innumerable coveted 10 out of 10 Clown Muffle scores, the elder of the Seattle twins, and in the flesh, or the metal, for so little flesh showed, core component of her ensemble's appeal, the lighting as it was, dark save her weapon's effervescence, and the framing as it was, the up and down profusion of stairs, and rails, and mathematical designs pleasing in their stark functionality, a perfect complement to the thousand spikes across her plating, all the elements of composition, all they breath. End of chapter. Chapter end.